the resiliency that a kid builds by trying over and over and then breaking through barriers and struggles and obstacles is that resiliency that creates success long term. And that will be so much more powerful for a parent than jumping in.
Smart Money Parenting.
Chad, why don't you introduce this one? You've got the radio DJ voice.
I'll do my best. Here we go. Here we go. Welcome to the Smart Money Parenting Show.
Oh my
How's it
God.
going, guys? That was the radio voice. Chad
Well, what are we
here.
giving the lottery? What is there a lottery
Well,
winner?
no, there could be. If they sign up for Gravy Stack and make a lot of money, it could be. I don't know. Welcome to the Smart Money Parenting Show, guys. Chad Willardson and Scott Donnell here, bringing you insights, wisdom, and all kinds of ideas to help your kids be value creation kids, smart, not spoiled, and really help them just be amazing young people that grow up to succeed in the future. And we're really excited about today's topic. The title is catchy. The title is Let Your Kids Scrape Their Knees. And Scott, one thing I've always felt is that kids need to have small mistakes and small experiences as kids where they take a little chance and then maybe they scrape their knees, and that's okay. Like the last thing I want, you and I take our kids snow skiing, the last thing you want is your kid never to fall down on their skis, right? That means they're not learning anything. One thing is at the park, I think we can all relate to this. Don't be at the bottom of the slide every single time when your kid goes down the slide to catch them. Like it's okay to let them sometimes fall and scrape their knees a little bit on the slide. So what are your thoughts about this, Scott? What does this mean to you?
Yeah, we had a funny birth story with our first kid, Reagan. And it's really a dynamic.
You didn't drop the baby in the hospital, did you?
Well, no, not in the hospital, but let me tell the story.
Okay. All right.
But usually in a marriage or a relationship, one of the spouses are a little more coddling, a little bit more protective, and then the other one is a little bit more like let them run, let them get hurt, let them learn. And
right.
That's definitely the dynamic between Amy and I. And I was a new dad. This was 7 years ago. I was a new dad trying to figure it out. Like, we're not sleeping. It was just chaos. And I checked Reagan for poop, and we were in our old house where it was like an 8-foot ceiling and I'm 6'3", and I lifted her up to smell for poop, and her head hit the fan. And the fan was like on high, and it was like,
oh, the fan was going?
It was going. It was like, like a big wood
fan. Could have cut her head off.
I almost did. It was terrifying. And my wife saw it, and she just heard the big thunk. And then there's 5 seconds of like silence with the kid where they're like prepping to scream. She just runs over and she's just like, give me that baby. Get away from my baby.
What did you do?
What did you do? And then 2 weeks later, I'm trying to change her. I'm exhausted. And I turn around to grab a wet wipe to wipe her. And she rolls off the changing table and falls on the ground 3 feet. It was the worst. She's like, you're never touching this kid again. And then and then 2 weeks later, she's laying on the couch, and her first rollover was when Amy was watching her in the kitchen, and she rolled over and fell on the ground from the couch. And I was like, yes, redemption, we're even. Okay, we can both keep going. But
this kid is tough.
Tough. Well, but obviously those are all mistakes. You want to try to avoid them when they're a little baby. But there was something that happened with the kids, when they were a year old. They did not understand why you shouldn't just run and jump off of the bed or the couch or just lunge off things. And you always want to try to be there early to save them. And Amy would always catch them before they did anything. And then at one point I was like, well, I want them to know a little bit about how it feels. So I would she would run off the couch, or just do something crazy. And I would slowly catch her and bring her to the ground to where she didn't get hurt, but she would feel the impact, a little bit of the impact on the ground, and be like, whoa, I don't want to do that. Right. And I remember our friend Chad Johnson was talking about, I want my kids to know if there's a candle, they have to learn not to touch the candle. But how do they learn not to touch the candle unless they know it's hot? right? So you don't want to burn your kid, but if they need to feel the heat a little bit, like it's this funny dynamic between partners. It's like your kids have to know a little bit about what it means to fail and get hurt so that they realize
Right.
what to do. And it's
Right.
actually how they grow and learn. And obviously you don't want to traumatize your kids. You don't want to like purposefully have them get hurt. But what can you do to like let the kids solve their own problems? And what can you do to let them kind of learn on their own and help coach them up to success and growth? That's kind of what we're talking about right now. That's the point. The more we coddle, the harder it is for them to grow and learn on their own, right?
Scott, one thing I tell my kids before they do anything is, guys, guess what's going to happen today? We're all going to fall down a lot. You know, whether it's skiing or surfing or whatever, my kids are learning to ride a bike. It's like, hey, you're going to fall down probably 100 times. And it's sometimes it's going to hurt, but that just means you're learning and growing. And guys, what do you do when you fall down? And they all say, you get back up. And I'm like, that's right. You just get back up every single time. You just keep going. Like our kids were surfing on a recent spring break vacation, and my youngest was having a miserable time, falling off the surfboard,
Yep.
getting whacked by other boards, getting pushed by the waves. He's crying. He's having a hard time, but he just kept getting back up. And I think you have to coach them and let them know you're going to fall down. And guess what? It's okay. Because a lot of times the kid falls down and they look up to mom or dad and they're waiting to see your reaction.
Yeah.
Right. And if
Yeah.
you're like, oh my gosh, then they're like, ah, it's
Yeah.
like you didn't have to react like that to just ignite their fire of fear. Like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be scared. If they fall and you're like, hey, that was a good try. Get up. Let's go again. Then they're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. I just get up and go again. That's what I'm supposed to do. You know what I mean?
I had this with Sawyer when he was learning to ride his bike. You finally let go, no training wheels, and he
Right.
goes for a little bit, and then he crashes. And the first 2 times I was like right there, and he looked up at me, and I was looking right at him, and he starts crying and screaming. And I'm like, it's okay, buddy, let's get back up, let's try it again. Well, the third time he went farther than the first two, so he was like 20 yards ahead, and then he fell. And I just I just looked away. I just like looked backwards. Like I wasn't
Right.
even
Like you
paying
didn't see it. Like
attention.
you didn't even see it. Yeah.
Like I didn't even see it. And then he like was about to cry when he was looking at me, but then he realized I wasn't looking at him. So he just gets back up, gets on the bike and starts pedaling. And from then on out, he had it. Right.
That's awesome.
So
That's
it's
awesome.
this funny thing. Like obviously no parent wants to see their kids hurt. No parent wants to see their kids scrape the knee, right? But if the kids can learn through that struggle and they actually succeed through the struggle, there's incredible capability and confidence on the other side. That is how a kid becomes mentally strong, is solving their own problems. We tend to jump in as parents all the time to fix whatever we can for our kids to help keep them safe, to help keep them happy, to help keep them insulated. And it doesn't actually grow them at the end of the day. But the greater benefit is the joy that a parent has when their kid learns to solve their own problems and get back up. Because now there's like a flip that switches for the parent that's like, okay, now my kid's on their right path. They're starting to get ready to be successful outside my home. They're going to be successful with their friends in sports, in school, in work. Like that's the ticket. And so if you're a parent that's really struggling watching your kids try and fail, you got to remember that failure, like there is no losing as a kid. There's winning or learning, right? Like win or learn, not win or lose, right? Kids need to learn to lose too, right? Like we play Monopoly and my 4-year-old goes nuts when he doesn't get the right roll. But we have to go through that. He has to learn to lose. He has to learn to shake his sister's hand and say good game at the end if he doesn't win. But what I'm saying is it's not actual losing like it is when you're an adult. It's learning.
It's not permanent. It's just
not.
learning. Yeah. Would you rather have your kids have no mistakes, no failures, no scraped knees, and leave your house at 18 just this protected little bubble kid? Or, hey, they tried everything. They learned a ton, they made mistakes, but they're so resilient because every time they fell, they learned, hey, I can do this, I can get back up and keep going. I mean, think of the difference in that kid that's graduating high school.
Yeah, that's the healthy struggles kids need to succeed. That's the point. We want them to really try and keep trying. Like that's the mark of grit, right? Which Angela Duckworth with her book Grit, that's kind of the main point, is the resiliency that a kid builds by trying over and over and then breaking through barriers and struggles and obstacles is that resiliency that creates success long term, right? And that will be so much more powerful for a parent than jumping in thinking that I'm a good parent because I've jumped in and I've caught it before it happened every time. So let's let the kids, scrape their knees. We're not saying let them break something. We're not saying let them get a concussion or, lose a limb. What we're saying is let them skin their knees. Let them try. Keep trying and get up, get up, get up. Keep going.
A great question at the dinner table might be, hey kids, what have you tried today that was hard? Or what did you try and fail at? What did you learn today by trying something new? And make that a habit to where it's like, I remember reading in some book, and I don't remember which one, but it was like they basically rewarded their kids for trying new things and not succeeding on their first try. Like, try something so difficult that you don't think you're good at it, but you're going to give it a go and you're going to learn and get better. And imagine just that attitude and that culture in your family of being willing to try new things, not saying, well, all I know is soccer, or all I know are these two friends at my school. I'm going to stay in my little bubble. I'm not going to try anything new because this is where my safe zone is. That's not going to create any type of grit or resiliency in these kids, which they're going to need to succeed in the real world. And a smart money parent is really going to let their kids, even in investing, like I would rather my kids make an investment in a Roth IRA account at 16 years old and lose 500 bucks at
Hmm.
a young age, make a small mistake in their financial accounts, then make no mistakes and have no experience. And then when they're 50 years old, they put all their money into some private investment and with a friend and it disappears to zero. Like, I want them to make little mistakes and learn at a young age because they're going to scrape their knees and learn how to heal from it and learn how to make better decisions afterwards. And that's key for any smart money parent listening to our show.
Yep. Yep. Sawyer earned 4 quarters yesterday for doing 4 things around the house to help mom and dad. And then right after dinner, he lost it on his 2-year-old brother and yelled and screamed and shoved him, lost a quarter. And then we said, then I said, all right, buddy, you gotta go to your room for timeout. I'll be there in a minute. No. Oh man, I'm so sorry. Come on over here. You owe me another quarter. He lost half his earnings in a matter of 20 seconds, right?
That's tough.
And
That's
he
tough.
lost it. And then we debriefed afterward. And I said, hey, buddy, it's hard to create value in the world, but it's also hard to treat your brother well. And you saw real quick, it's easy to make money. It's really easy to lose it. And so tomorrow, let's try again. You'll have opportunity for 4 more quarters tomorrow. He's like, yeah, I'm getting 6 quarters tomorrow just in case.
That's funny. Give himself a little buffer.
Yeah, but it's that stuff. It's like, we have the system set up. The kids are, they're skinning their knees every day.
Yep.
We just did
Yep.
this with swim lessons. Sawyer and Reagan and Owen, they did swim lessons in the backyard with I did it first, right? And so Owen's 2 years old. He hates going underwater. And we would practice him going to the bottom of the 4 foot. And then he would launch off the top and come to the top and then just start screaming, because he hated being underwater. Well, we did it 2 times. And every time he'd come up screaming, we would all be cheering. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Reagan and Sawyer are like, yeah, good job, man. You got it. High fives. And then after the second time, he got high fives while he was screaming. And then about 5 seconds later, he goes, again. So
That's awesome.
we did it again.
That's
And then he
awesome.
launches up. And then the third time, he's not screaming at all. His hand is out for the high fives.
Right. Right.
And then he's cheering. And then he's excited. And then we do it again. And he wants to be under there for 3 seconds and then launch off the ground and get high fives. You see the difference? It's like, if the kid's screaming, the biggest thing you want to do is, okay, we'll do it again, buddy. We'll try.
Yeah, we don't need to do it today. He's too young. We can do it when he's older. It's okay.
Right. That's a really perfect experience of, we flipped it on its head and we let him go through the struggle and we celebrated him on the other side of it. Right now, he loves doing it and he's getting much closer to having mom and dad not being terrified he's going to drown in the pool. Right. So I want these kids to be capable and confident and really be like in all areas, not just swimming, but Same thing with school. Same thing with your home expectations and extra pay. Same thing with their friends on sports teams and everything else. I want the kids to go through the struggles because then I get to be a coach. I get to cheer them on. It's okay. With a baby, crying is seen as the worst thing ever for parents. Someone told us this a few years ago. They said, crying is good exercise for a baby. It's good for their lungs. It's good for their
Interesting.
breathing.
I've never heard that. That's smart.
It completely flipped our perspective. Now, when the baby's crying, it's not this complete anxiety. It's still
not like a rush.
comfortable.
It's not a rush like, oh my gosh, I got to hurry up and stop the crying.
Right. And it helps so much more with like helping them sleep with cry it out and like getting them to sleep through the night. Crying is exercise for a young toddler. Now, you don't just let them cry all day. Obviously, you need to be there. But if there's a little bit of crying and there's like a few minutes where they're just losing it, it's good exercise. Little mindset shifts for parents mean the difference. It really does.
Yep.
That has saved us a lot of anxiety and struggle over the last few years. So let them scrape their knees is all.
Let them scrape their knees. Yep. Let's put the helmet on the kids. But if they fall down, let's not make an emergency 911 because of it. Let's let our kids try and struggle, have healthy struggles, fail, make mistakes, and learn and get up and get better. So once again, guys, that's the message today. Hope you got something good out of it.
Hey, last thing before we go, I think the response that we should leave them with, Chad, is when they scrape their knee, don't be there to pick them up and say, I'm so sorry.
Right.
Be there to celebrate them and say, I'm so proud of you for trying.
There you go.
That's the difference. That's
praise the effort. Just praise the effort and and their persistence. Yeah, there's a good little bonus nugget. There's a bonus nugget for you. We're trying to give you the good stuff here. Thank you guys thanks for listening, for watching. Share it with a friend, with your spouse, your family. Follow us, Smart Money Parenting Show. We really appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.
It takes more than money if you want to succeed. You gotta know what to do with it. You gotta take the lead. You gotta give them confidence. You gotta make them smart. If your kids are gonna thrive, now's the time to start. Smart Money Parenting.